Good morning, Year 10. So once again, we're going to have a quick recap by starting off by looking at homeostasis and the nervous system. So we're going to have a look and do some knowledge recall questions. So it's the same sort of thing as last week. If you pause the video, have a go at the questions, and then when you're ready, come back and have a look at the answers. So we're going to have the answers appearing on the next screen now. So a synapse, the junction or the physical gap between neurons. The reflex action is an automatic and it's a rapid action that's not involving the conscious parts of your brain, so it's a very quick action. The pigment that is present inside the chloroplast is your chlorophyll. Why can't we use antibiotics to treat viruses? Because viruses reproduce inside the cell and we can't actually get the antibiotic inside the cell without actually damaging the cell. What does the xylem cell do? They transport water and mineral ions from roots to other parts of the plants. And then lastly, the two jobs of bile. Bile emulsifies fat, and then its second job, it's neutralizing the food that is coming from the stomach. So we're going to stop the sharing a moment. So you should have my big screen now. And I'm just going to swap onto my visualizer. So I've got my visualizer there. And I think if I go back into... I want to share my screen again, share my screen, and I want the visualizer and share. So we're going to have a look at, let me move me, homeostasis and the nervous system. So let's have a little bit of a recap. So homeostasis, the maintenance of the internal environment at a steady state. So we're going to have a quick think about being too hot or too cold, and you can have a little bit of a think about yourself whilst I do this down. So if we're too hot, then we're going to sweat more. If we are too hot, our hairs on our skin, hairs on skin are going to lie flat, and we're going to get blood flowing near the skin. Now the opposite is going to happen if we're too cold. We're going to shiver. When we shiver, that's your muscles working, they're doing respiration. Respiration is an exothermic reaction, so it generates heat. Your hairs are going to stand on end, which traps a layer of air around the body and insulates it, and we're going to get the blood flows away from the skin. And then the last one that we could add to that, it's the opposite of sweating more. We're going to sweat less on a cold day. So another quick recap before we start getting on to some work. So we've got three different types of neurons. We've got our sensory neuron, our motor neuron, and our relay neuron. And those are our three different types of neurons that we've been talking about. So if you get task, I think it's task 2, pulled up either on the Google Doc, or you can print this off if you want to do it by hand. And can you have a go at this? So pause the video and have a go at it. So we're going to have a quick look at the answers now. So we've got our first one, 3 things controlled by homeostasis: the blood glucose, the body temperature, and the water content. Then we'll have a look at the next bit. It's a hot day. Circle the words. His body temperature is going to increase. His blood water level is going to decrease, and because he can't eat any food, his blood sugar level is also going to decrease. It says explain your answer to part B. So why does his water level decrease? He is sweating more to cool down, and sweat contains water. So we've got an answer there. All right, part C, the receptors are the cells that do the detecting. The coordination system receives and processes the information, and the effectors bring about a response. So this is all recap. You have done this. And then the last bit that we've got there, we've got some missing words. So we should have internal conditions, the control of blood sugar. You might have written glucose. It might involve hormones or chemical responses. We'll be learning about hormones starting next week. And all control systems involve receptors, coordination centers, and effectors. So we've got 2 of them listed, so you know it must be, the last one that we must have there is going to be a receptor. So our next task that we've got to look at, we've got some exam questions, and there are 2 different exam questions. So I want you to look at, I think it's task 3, which is the first exam question, and you should spend 10 minutes having a go at this exam question. So we're going to go through the answers now. So the first bit says we've got a sensory neuron there, so it's really move as you can see it. And it says, which label is the cell nucleus? Now you can look straight away at this, and the biggest thing that you can see inside that cell is that's the nucleus there, so that's A. And which label is the receptor? So if we go back and look at it, we can see that's in the skin. You know your skin is one of your sense organs, so the receptor is D. So we've got a nerve pathway, and we need to make sure that we've spotted here that there is a question, and it wants you to label structure A and structure B. Now structure A is actually pointing to the gap that's between those 2 nerves, so between the sensory neuron and the relay neuron, and you know that a gap between 2 nerves is called a synapse. You've got sensory neuron labels, you've got a relay neuron label, so you've only got 1 label left, and that is your motor neuron. And then the second question, what type of action is it? It's a reflex action. And the doctors are testing different ages. So we've got their age going down here. And this is an important bit that we've got here. It's got their time in milliseconds. Now, if you look at the answer, it wants you to give an answer in seconds. So you're going to have to convert between milliseconds and seconds. So it wants to know at 80 years of age, it takes 30 milliseconds. 20 years of age, it takes 18 milliseconds. So quick maths, 30 take away 18, we've got 12 milliseconds. And then to convert that into seconds, we need to do 12 divided by 1,000, because there are 1,000 milliseconds in a second. Milli means 1,000th. 12 divided by 1,000th gives us our time of 0.012 seconds. So there's the answer to that question. And task 4 that we've got on there is to have a go at the second exam question. So can you pause the video and take 10 minutes and have a go at the second exam question before we go through it? So I'm going to go through it now. So they're using a computer program to avoid accidents, and it's changing of light, and they've got to click on the computer mouse as quickly as possible. So this should point out to you that they are testing reaction time, if that's what they're doing. It says special cells detect the change in colour. What word is used to describe those special cells? So anything that does the detecting, there's our key word, is a receptor cell. Where in the body are they? Well, if they're detecting a change and it's using colour, then they're going to be in the eyes, specifically in the retina, but the eyes would have got you the mark. The students used the computer program, they've used just 1 computer, to measure the reaction times of people of different ages. Give 1 variable, so something that changes, that the students need to control for, to make sure that it's a fair test. So you could have written the gender, so like, are they male or are they female? You could have said how much alcohol have they drunk in the last 12 hours. You could have gone, how much caffeine have they drank in the last so many hours. You could have also gone for something like, do they wear glasses or not? Because that could make a difference, because they might not actually see the computer screen as quickly. And then the second part of the question, it wants you to work out the mean for the question, and it gives you the different ages going down here, and you've got a gap in the question, and it wants you to put in what is that gap. Now, to work out the mean, you've got the 3 numbers there, you're going to add them together and divide it by 3, and you should have got an answer of 182 milliseconds. They repeated it 3 times, so they did their practical 3 times. What would be the advantage of it? Now, it doesn't make it more precise. They haven't used any better equipment. They're still measuring it to milliseconds, so that's not the answer. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be errors, because mistakes could still happen. But what it does mean is that any anomalies or odd results could be identified. Now, the last question, some people think that old people should not be allowed to drive a car. Why not? Well, let's have a look. As you get older, so age, what happens to your reaction time? Oh, reaction time most definitely increases. So we could say, and I'm just doing this really quickly, increase in age leads to an increase in reaction time. Now that could mean that we're going to get more accidents, because it could take the old person, if they're driving a car, it might take them longer to put their foot onto the brake pedal if they see a reason in front of them that they should stop. I've got one more activity that you could have a go at, year 10, if you're still doing the work and you want to keep going and you've not done all of the work for today and you've still got a bit of time. We've got some questions that you can have a go at. So I've got 6 questions here, so you can pause the screen and have a go at it. And then there's another 6 there, so 12.7 down to 12.12. Again, you can pause the screen and have a go at it. And I'm just going to show you the answers to that so that you can correct it if you want to. Those of you that have had a go, this is not on the Google document. So we've got all the way down, we've got the answers there. Again, pause the screen, have a look at your answers. And then the last 6 questions there. So you can pause the screen and have a go at answering those. Thank you very much, year 10, and we'll move on to looking at hormones next week.